Okay, I want to share a bit about what I have been thinking about the lecture of Dr. Al Qurtuby. And thank you once again for his outstanding lecture, Dr. Sumanto. I really appreciate it, and I also want to thank CMCS Oxford for inviting me as a respondent to this lecture. I think I better turn off my video so that I can.
Ferry, your sound is fine, I think.
Yeah, okay. So my response, and maybe this is less comprehensive and critical, we'll start with highlighting several remarkable things about the lecture. First, the presentation of religious demographic realities in the slides that we have been seeing helps us realize how difficult or complex it is to understand Indonesia's Muslim-Christian relations, notably religious freedom. For example, the rights and access for ethnic or religious minorities to freely express or practice their values and beliefs. We also see that in that lecture that the brief historical survey of Muslim-Christian inter- and intra-religious conflicts shows that the roots of the tensions are quite deep and wide. The conflicts that happen seem to be only the tip of the iceberg. Through the view of from historical, political, social, economic, and cultural angles, we can trace and identify the causes of these strains in a more deeper way. Despite of delicate, uneasy, and challenging nature of Muslim-Christian relationship in Indonesia, the lecture still has hope for religious peace and harmony. There are prospects for establishing interfaith dialogue, peace, and tolerance, mainly through Muslim and Christian mutual coexistence, coalition, and collaboration. So dealing with this past wounded, the lecturer or Dr. Sumanto also suggests an effort for conciliation, which means reconciliation and peace building. And at the end of the lecture, he also presents practical ways to enhance peaceful and harmonious Muslim-Christian relations by building inter- and intra-religious mutual learning, mutual understanding, and also joining forces together. I also appreciate this lecture because it uses recent data and also resources, because we know that besides showing the actual and familiar current situation, the novelty of data or resources is appropriate because it can serve as a parameter for valid and relevant dealing with the issue of Muslim and Christian relations in Indonesia. Moreover, its multidimensional approach to the subject seems appropriate and helpful, since the nature of the problems of Muslim-Christian relations in Indonesia is also multi-dimensional. However, I want to bring some points concerning this lecture to be considered. First of all, the lecture does not really give a wide-ranging description of Muslim-Christian relationship in Indonesia. So the phrase tension and cooperation, or peace and violence, as the mark of the relation suggests only two opposite models or types. For example, tension and cooperation, or conflict and peace. Tension here refers to a condition where the Muslims and Christians are implacable enemies. Both are entrapped in the unending and primordial competitions for nationwide dominance. They believe that the very survival of their religious community depends on defending themselves from the aggressions of their rival. Cooperation here indicates that Muslims and Christians view their unique religions as part of God's plan to work together toward common goods. However, in Indonesian context, I think there is another type that is more dominant or popular than the two, the tension and the cooperation. And I call this disconnection, or separate but equal. It means that Muslim and Christians believe that different religious communities as ideally tolerant of each other, but best kept strictly separate. And some of our Muslim friends would quote from Surah Al-Kafirun, verse 6, "For you is your religion, and for me is my religion." So keeping apart in such condition, I think, does not prevent conflict, but it generates distrust. Secondly, the lecture does not say much about the dynamics of religious majority and minority within Muslim and Christian relations in the region. Indonesia has been perceived as moderate, tolerant, and plural country in terms of religion or religiosity. However, it may only be a popular self-perception, and it cannot be justified. In recent years, Indonesia's reputation for religious tolerance and plurality has come under scrutiny from domestic and overseas civic society and human rights groups, the international media, and the diplomatic community. Much of this scrutiny generally relates to the religious majority's treatment of religious or even ethnic minorities. Philly and Richie in 2019 infers that Indonesian people seems not really understand the whole concept of majority and minority, especially the what and the who are these people. They measure the terms in numerical definition, which one is has a larger size, but do not realize the complexity of lived experience, life experience, and relation between groups in different sizes and power dynamics within the society. Sectarian tension and peaceful coexistence may be addressed through a better understanding of this dynamics, the dynamics of religious minority and majority. Thirdly, I think the lecture does not approach the issue theologically, particularly from the perspective of theology of other faiths or theology of religious others. A religious community views religious other affects its attitude toward other religious group. However, on its basis, what they think of the other is shaped by their theology, mainly the theology of other faiths and theology of religious others. What a religious exclusivist or inclusivist or even pluralist views of the divine or God and his revelation will affect their view and attitudes toward the religious others. This approach may seem misleading or mistaken because not all religious people fit neatly into one of these categories. Even when they do fit, they probably describe their beliefs differently. So, however, this approach, the theological approach, will provide a helpful framework for further Muslim-Christian discussion and dialogue. From experience as an Indonesian Christian, inter and intra-religious conflicts more or less comes from where the religious people place themselves in this spectrum. So I would like to suggest that the lecture will consider three things. First one is the whole models of patterns of Muslim-Christian relations in Indonesia, especially in adding the disconnection type beside the tension and cooperation. Secondly, the relational dynamics between religious majority and minority, especially within one religion or inter-religion. And lastly, I would suggest that this lecture would include the conversation with theology of other faiths or theology of religious others, especially in the spectrum of pluralism, inclusivism, and exclusivism into this discussion. So I think that's all my response, a very short response to Dr. Al Qurtuby's presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Ferry. Just before we turn to questions, Sumanto, do you want to add any more comments of your own, or shall we turn to questions?
Yeah, very brief, Martin. Thank you so much. Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Martin, okay. Thank you so much, Pak Ferry, for the notes. From my perspective, majority.
Oh, now we're struggling for sound.
Also being now.
Can you hear us?
I will my video.
Maybe switch your video off.
Okay. Video.
Ferry, do you want to stop sharing screen?
Yes.
That's it. Great. Sumanto, go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. I think it's video. I think I have to close my switch off my video. First of all, thank you so much, Pak Ferry, for the notes. My response is very quick about majority, minority is also very contested. In my opinion, is what exactly considered to be majority and minority is not easy. For example, is that Muslims then sometimes Muslims claim to be minority. In some cases, like Shi'i Muslims and others, they consider to be minority within the majority as Muslims, because within the Muslim themselves, they really compete one another, right? So what exactly majority and minority is? Is the minority is non-Muslims, or within Muslims also they are minority? So the discussion of majority and minority is also is not easy to find solutions. For example, some group who violate human rights, religious freedom, for example, they claim to be majority Muslim, but actually minority, right? It's a minority within the majority of Muslims groups. So again, there's always discussion about majority and minority, which is not easy to find solution. The second point about theological approach, I agree, and I think this is why I give suggestion. For example, universities, Muslim universities or Christian-based universities, they have Muslim Christians interaction courses together to have discussion about how Christians see Muslim from Muslims, or Muslim see Christians from Muslim or from Christian, and so forth. Because sometimes seeing others from other perspectives is really different from others, right? So many Muslims, for example, they in some Muslim universities, Islamic universities, they have some Christian courses, for example, but those who teaching Christian courses is from Muslims teachers or lecturers that do not have really peaceful or pluralistic points of view, for example. So what happened is just judging other belief, right? So they do not study how to understand others, but they study to judge others. So they consider as their religion as the right one and others the wrong one. So this is the most difficult one. Is approach from theological perspective should be done with respect, with deep knowledge of other religion and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think I agree. Theological perspective is also helpful, but we have to be careful about theological perspective with others. Sometimes theological perspective with others is not the best solution. It's sometimes worse solution. For example. So in dialogue, we recognize several types of dialogue, which is theological dialogue, which is humanistic dialogues, and others. Sometimes some people, they avoid theological approaches because, okay, you done yours, I'm done mine. Just let us work together in humanitarian work. For example, I have many friends from Christians as Muslim. They work together in tsunami, in other places, for example, for relief services and others. They live together. They and so on and so forth. They avoid to talk about theological things. Okay, I believe in my faith. You believe in your faith, but this is about humanity. Let's work together for humanity. Forget about your faith. Forget about my faith. Let's work together for humanity. Sometimes humanitarian work or humanity approach sometimes it's much more much better than theological approaches. Theological approaches might be good for some high-level thinker, intellectual, those who have tolerance and others, but for grassroots, it's really difficult. It's better to work together for humanity and a humanitarian thing rather than we debate about theological and which is never ending actually. So some people they avoid theological perspective and debate, and let move on, work together on humanitarian issues. So they work in earthquakes, victims of earthquake, victims of tsunami, victims of war, refugees, victims of for example, volcano and so on and so forth. They build house together. They work together for humanitarian. Sometimes it's much more useful, much more efficient, rather than use theological one. For me, it's not problem. For me, no problem. I studied Christianity. I studied Islam. I studied Judaism and so on and so forth. For me, it's not problem to use theological perspective. But for ordinary people, for those who are not familiar with theological debate and understanding, it might be it's quite risky a little bit. And then the last point is about disconnection. I think I agree. I think we cannot say I think in some cases there's a dynamics between tensions and peace, right? So it's not peace, but society is not divided into two extremes. One is there in the left, one is the right. I think no. In many cases there's a dynamics between tensions and peace. Sometimes they involve in tension, but sometimes they make reconciliations and peace and so on and so forth. Sometimes tensions again and so on and so forth. It depends on well, there are many factors that contribute to this. I studied in Ambon, for example, for my PhD, and working with Christian group and Muslim groupings. It's not easy. It's not easy to find a peaceful solution for them. It's depends on many many things, and in many cases. Some tension they reappear again and again, as because of economic issues, because of competition for political things and so forth. So but people in many societies, of course, there is a dynamics between tensions and conciliation. Sometimes it's multiple reasons and factors contribute to this. But thank you so much for the input, and I think I will use your input to develop. I think we have to write 1,000. I just read Martin's email. I have to write 1,000 pages, so maybe I will incorporate Ferry's ideas.
That's great. We'd be very happy if you do.